And Anus the scribe came to him and said to him, Joseph, why haven't you appeared among our traveling group? And he said, because I was weary from the trip and rested the first day back. So kind of a, hey, where you been skulking around, buddy? We haven't seen you in a while. Nobody's cleaned the toilets or something. I don't know. And Anus turned and saw Mary pregnant. And he quickly went to the priest and said to him, Joseph, about whom you bore witness, has acted very lawlessly. What a turd, dude.
He probably was like,
go.
Oh, he probably was like a closeted homosexual. So he like needed to. He's just like, I'm gonna prove myself. That's why he was named Anus.
Anus is Randall from Recess.
Yes.
Miss Finster. Hello and welcome to another episode of Growing Up Christian. I'm Casey.
I'm Sam.
And we're joined today by our good friend, the triumphant return of George Azar. How are you doing, George?
Doing great. It's so good to be back.
Dude, it's so good to see you. I feel like I haven't, I feel like despite all of our interactions online, it's been quite a while since we've actually spoken in a, I was going to say real life, but virtual at least. We're doing a virtual conversation, but it's so good to fucking hear your voice and see you again, man.
Oh, same. I know, it's so funny, and like on social media you tend to like lose the image of somebody until you see them again. Like you have the like social media image.
Did you remember him in that shirt?
I was like, who is this?
It's the gayest shirt I own. Let's
Oh, it's the theme.
My gay shirt days.
My gay shirt day. I'm so glad that you dressed for the occasion.
I didn't even think about it. I just knew I needed to wear this today, and obviously God's hand was upon me when I picked out my clothes this morning.
He cares just as much as for the gays as he does the straights.
He does, despite what you might have heard, but
Marjorie Taylor Greene and all them say.
How goes the same-sex attraction? Are you cured yet?
Yeah, so you know. It's 100% cured. I'm, dating women now, and I'm like a baller. Nobody calls me out on my shit anymore. No one, it's great.
Now, honestly, the best part, dude, if you really want to make your bag, though, just write a book about how you're not gay anymore. Bam. And then immediately write a book. After you get rich, immediately put out another book that's like, gotcha. And then and then you got all the liberals back, dude. And they buy that because they love the whole like inception, the gayception going on.
Oh my God, Sam, let's conspire on this.
Yeah.
We could probably this is like the perfect get the Christian market, because they have the money and the ability to be able to like fund that kind of shit.
Hell
so let's do it.
It's gotta be like a more palatable Ollie London.
I think I could try. Not a high bar.
I remember one day I went down a rabbit hole where I was like, his name popped up in something, and I started down this rabbit hole like, oh, this might be interesting to talk about on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's too dumb. It's too stupid. I can't do
it. Indicated by the pause.
He was like trying to look like he's a guy that was like trying to get surgically he configured to look like Ken.
Oh my God.
Ken and Barbie. And then for a while he wanted to be Korean because he was like a big K-pop guy.
There's probably a Korean Ken Barbie too that you could have modeled yourself after.
Well, and the conservatives were okay with that because he stayed the same gender. Had he gone transgender, that'd been a whole different issue.
That's jumping the shark.
Yeah, that's true. If you want to,
he's like a Christian now, and he's renounced a lot of that.
Oh, I get it. So but that's what we're picking up on, George. It's the testimony. You need the testimony. So,
yes.
I mean, nothing would be better than like someone who's like, I'm gay and I can't do this anymore. And then they're like, but then the Holy Spirit spoke into my life. And then you just pull them back. It's like, I mean, you could get some movies made, get some documentaries made, and then you just go get those
it's a
components out of your
well-beaten
book.
path.
Yeah. Tried and true. And there's money at the end of that rainbow. But that rainbow isn't a gay rainbow. It's more like the rainbow that God's promise, not so much just being gay.
Well, since I've already been on the other side of it, my credibility might go down, but we'll see. I'll try my hardest on that.
Yeah.
We're gonna get
a
yo-yo.
That's what I'm gonna. That's like my new spin is like. Well, before we hit record, we mentioned it even on the last episode, I think, Casey. But it's like we're talking about, or a couple episodes back, depending on when this one comes out. But that podcast network scam. That's kind of what I want to be in, but for like Christianity. You know, you can.
Yeah.
It's like MLM kind of style. Like, you know, you just build this or the Sam Bankman-Fried. You just build it up, and you're like. You just find people who left Christianity and you find like the best fucking story to bring them back into it that they just buy into, and you just all make your bag and move on. There's so many good options for it. And there's so many things that conservative evangelicals hate. You just need to just hit all the categories, check a few boxes, and I could probably walk away with 6 figures, 7 figures, even pretty quickly. And then you can do my taxes. So it's all around like a perfect circle, dude.
I'll charge a fee. Yeah. Well, all we have to do is hack into like the Trump donor list and see who we get. Those could be our potential clients.
There it is.
Gullible.
Hey, the Koch brothers live here in Wichita.
Do that.
Oh, perfect.
We're right on the doorstep.
We'll have to like entice them with oil or something. Yeah. We'll figure that one
out. That's what you do. You just like put a trail of oil from like their front doorstep into like some dirt pit, and they just follow it the whole way. They're like, "There's oil over here. There's oil over here."
That reminds me of the Family Guy episode with Adam West when they kept dropping the candy. Ooh, candy! Yeah. Ooh, candy!
Yeah. It's like Swiss Family Robinson douchebag edition.
Douchebag edition. Oh my god, I love it.
Dude, so since we were last, I went back and listened to some of the episode that we did before, which it feels crazy, but that was January 4th of 2022 that episode came out.
That's
coming
wild.
up on 2 years.
Oh my
Holy
god.
Shit. I feel like it's like, I think that's what's so funny about doing this every week is like, and then staying in touch with some of the people that you have on. It's like and time goes by so fast. It feels like it's been like 9 months or so since you, like, I could have maybe just had a baby and then, you know, we would be talking again. And
yeah, no, same. Wow. I like literally, I didn't even realize that. That's shocking.
So since then, man, you went on a book tour. You've had some events going. What was the book tour like?
It was interesting. It's funny. I was 2 stops in, and then the anti-abortion stuff started coming in, and I actually canceled the Southern tour because I was like, "Fuck this!" Like, I'm not gonna because you know, when you go and tour, when you do these things, you have to, you know. Being the accountant that I am, I know that you have to register with local municipalities. You have to pay a tax. There's, you know, admission fee, blah, 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 all of that.
Oh, that's a lot to it.
Yeah, there's a lot about, like, some people don't do it. And, you know, but, you know, I figured if I was going to be, you know, targeted in the South, I might as well have all my ducks in a row, just in case they come back for tax fraud.
It's treated a little bit different than all of my friends who were in local hardcore bands that did tours. They just like, you just pop into a venue and get cash and then walk away, and no one's the wiser. I'm not sure if anyone's ever even thought about taxes if they're
still working off their teenage credit score, though.
That's true. But I would not have ever considered all of like that. All of that extra shit. That's wild. I mean,
yeah, that's just how my brain works. I'm just like, oh shit, I have to, you know, just stay in compliance. It's my enemy.
I mean, we've even talked about doing like a few like it comes up every now and again when we're thinking about, not that we have a lot of free time to just travel around and do whatever the fuck we want, which is why Casey and I do this over the internet, since we also live in different states. But it's like the idea of picking like 4 or 5 cities and trying to like get together some actual like live event type shit. And you're like, I would have never thought about that. I would like, you just reach out to places and you book. Like, there's so much I don't know about that world. Which
So you just didn't want to like pay, like you just thought, I'm not paying these municipalities that are in the middle of all of this mess.
Exactly. Like okay, here, look, I don't want it to sound cocky because it's not like I was going to bring in thousands of dollars or anything like that. It was more the principle for me, where it was like, because a lot of the venues, they were book tours. And so, I was going to stop into local shops and all of that. But, every single, foot you take or step you take inside of that state, there's some sort of tax, whether it be sales tax, which is so funny because like I live in California. Everyone's like, oh, the taxes are crazy. Taxes are crazy. It's like, no, it's just the income tax is crazy. But if you look at like taxes abroad, like I forgot what it was. I think it's like Alabama or some one of those horrible states. They have a higher tax rate than across the board. So I was taking that into consideration. I'm like, I'm not going to be funding the salaries of these horrible people that are, whether it be $2 or $2,000, I don't care. Like, and so for me, it was more a principle thing than it was practical, I guess you could say. So I canceled the book tour through the South, and then was going to end up in New Jersey and New York, and then got COVID. So it was like,
yeah, that puts a damper on travel plans. Well, it used to, at least. Now you just get on a plane with COVID and give it to everybody else. But it's different now. Things have changed.
Exactly. But the silver lining through it, actually, had it not been for that, I wouldn't have thought about doing a second version of the book. So it all kind of like panned out, where it was like, okay, like, I'm able to, take these resources and put them elsewhere. So yeah, it turned out to be fine. But yeah, the tour was as short as it was great. I met some really cool people. Got to do a book reading up in Elk Grove here in California, and connected with some people on Instagram that had, just kind of why the whole intent of putting this book out there was for people to resonate with my story. A lot of people resonated with it and really found camaraderie in that. And like, basically they were like, I didn't know, anybody else like that was out there. And so it just was, it was fun.
That's
awesome.
It
was all the tingles. Yeah.
So speaking of municipalities just being awful, you guys remember Kim Davis?
How could we forget?
Oh, well, I may have. Kim Davis was the person who refused marriage licenses to gay people, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Kentucky. Yeah. So she made the news like last week because she has been ordered to pay $100,000 to the couple that she denied a marriage license.
I love that news. But then I was like, what about the GoFundMe's that like popped up after that? I'm like curious, like.
Oh my God. That's the worst part about the internet, right? Like it's like, what Kyle Rittenhouse got a GoFundMe for him after to like support him. And you're just like, every time you do something awful, there's a GoFundMe for you. Yeah. But also at the same time, that it can go the other way too. But I know some of those companies have tried to crack down on like really fucked up shit. Like cops who blatantly killed black people who were unarmed, essentially on purpose. And then like a GoFundMe pops up. They're like, okay, we draw the line there. Like they'll shut those ones down sometimes.
Well, there's like always a family member or somebody close to that person that's willing to like go out on the limb. It's such like the American dream nowadays is like, it's literally just like finding a scam and riding it for long enough that you can like, buy a nice used Cadillac.
Yeah.
That's the pinnacle of success. It used to be like you find a union job with a pension at General Motors or something like that. Like now it's like, your sister gets hit by a bus and you start a GoFundMe that you slowly siphon funds off until you can buy that like 2020 CTS that you've been eyeballing. The one with the puncture
Oh my
mark
God.
in the seat.
It's so
I love
funny
it.
because ironically, like the people who are like grafting onto that are like still trying to tell everybody else that life's about getting a good job and working hard and going to
Right.
college and shit. And they're just like, well, also, someone did just roll over my foot with a grocery store at the local market. So probably try to sue them for all they're
Reminds
worth.
me of a story. 2 mice fell into a bucket of cream. That sort of thing.
Is that a real story?
No,
What was that movie? Catch Me If You Can?
Oh, shit. Never saw
I don't. Yeah.
Christopher Walken tells that story constantly about how
it.
one mouse drowns in the cream and the other one struggles so hard that he turns it into butter and just flops his way out of the bucket.
And
it's true.
I can
Pretty
hear
good
Christopher
analogy.
Walken telling that story and making it enjoyable.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the funniest thing is when people do donate to those GoFundMes that they try to take it as a tax deduction, not realizing that. That's the funniest to me. It's like, oh yeah, go ahead and try.
Oh, dude, you probably see a lot of fun shit with people trying to deduct from their taxes. For anyone who doesn't know, we should probably clarify because we made some tax jokes with you already. Your is that correct? CPA? Is that the right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So,
which means that he is available for tree track tax advice at any day, any time of day or night.
And
hit him up.
And by that, I mean he's the guy that stands outside of that. What's the tax? The Liberty, whatever. Yeah. In the
you're just as the Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty. That's what I mean when I say you're a CPA.
Yeah. My day, and then I transfer over down to Sunset Boulevard and work the costume there. So
you're a good sign flipper.
Exactly.
There's a lot of TikToks made of you flipping signs and just crushing it. Theater didn't work out, and you're like, well, I could always just be the Statue of Liberty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Badgernomics.
In a low income section.
Did you meet any? Did you do Did you have any weird interactions at any of the events that you've done? Or I know you've had some weird interactions online because I witnessed one right before we talked the other day.
Jesus. Yeah. In person, it was not strange. It was how do I say it? It was a generational block. Let's just say that. It was actually really sweet. This family came out. So there was I think it was a daughter and I'm sorry, I forgot the context, but it was the daughter, it was the parents, and then their parents, so the grandparents came out.
Okay.
And, yeah, and so I did a Q&A and, I gave a lot more grace, but, there were questions gosh, it's been so long, I literally can't remember, but I just remember putting it in the back of my head and being like, yeah, there's a better way to ask that question, but but that's the point. I mean, you're right. Online, it's that's where I get all my shit, because these people have no faces, no their accounts are private, all that shit, so it's a lot easier to spew hate. But yeah, no haters, no protesters. Just some awkward questions here. I wish I could remember one of the questions because it really was just oh my gosh.
It's kind of like the equivalent of a boomer asking a lady how pregnant she is without knowing for sure.
Exactly. But it was
there's no worse situation. I've never done that, but I've been present when someone else has done it. I'm just why would you go out on that limb?
Yeah.
God.
I was actually at a comedy show last weekend where the host was claiming, it was themed around racism. And she kept saying she was the only white, white person there. And she was just saying how she was a racist, blah, blah, all that. I was like, okay, yeah, great. But then I was sitting a row back and she leaned into this Indian woman and she asked her if she was with another Indian woman who was sitting across the other way. And I was like, oh, that's why you're a racist. I see. It was so uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable. She's like, no, I came by myself. She's like, oh, I thought you were with that. It was just, it was awkward.
Was the set mostly a bomb? Like, did this person, was it, or is it funny, like awkward? Like, how did you feel? What was that?
The comedians were great. She was kind of a bomb because you could tell she was awkward.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. I don't want to judge anybody's, intention or anything like that. It felt like, to me, virtue signaling. Like, it was just like, I'm white, and so therefore I'm going to claim I'm a racist, but then when I saw it in action,
going
like,
a little too hard.
There it is. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. There's nothing worse than that, like, weird, like, there was a lot of, like, clips of that during, like, the Black Lives Matter protests and stuff, where it's like this, it's like a white person being very performatively, like, supportive, and then they say something that you're just like, God, what are you doing? It's like, dude, it's like that clip. I sent Sam a clip earlier this week, but it was a clip of Joe Biden. It was like it was from a little while ago, but he's like,
when he was 80,
he's like, look, I believe in this country. Poor kids ought to get the same education as white kids. You're just like, hey. Of course that lives in there. You're 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's so funny. And you can, with it being so old and his brain being so jumbled at this point, you can even get it. Like, you can get that maybe in his mind he was trying to make a point about the disparities between whites and blacks, and you're just like, but he just can't say shit right anymore. And it's like, we should allow him to. It's like, can we just start deep faking Biden with some? If we're gonna get this puppet as a president again, can someone else step in and just like write the script and deep fake the shit out of it?
Yeah. Right. Can AI take this job?
Yeah. The one job everyone's begging it to take.
Right. Well, it's funny because I was like, I like, obviously, like, I vote, Democrat, clearly. And I was like,
he just winked, by the way. If you're listening to this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm a Rashwami fan, but when we got him in 2020, I was like, okay, at least we have COVID. Now I'm like, okay, at least we have imprisonment. So it's like, he doesn't have to travel as much. He could stay, stay in, like, talk from the radio. Like,
as long as we keep him off a bike, we should be.
Yeah.
All right.
Just let him stand in the background and shake invisible hands.
No stairs. Like,
no stairs.
Low incline ramps. Like, I'm talking like 1 foot for every like 6 feet of distance. Give him like real steady ramps, good handrails. We can get through this, guys.
Which is so funny because, like, as you're saying that, I'm thinking of Trump, but it's like, it's true on both sides.
Oh, man. Come on, heart disease. Do us a solid for once.
Something.
I know. It's so crazy that we're relying on, like, the miracle of death to occur when he has 159 indictments, and we know that's not going to do shit.
Exactly.
That's so good. What a time we live in. What a time.
Right.
Our best chance is that he just drinks from the wrong water fountain and gets the brain-eating amoeba.
Wait, no, I think that's already happened.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God,
but he just assumes that you need to boil your water alert on his phone as fake news, Yeah. And I'm only thinking of that because I just got one of those. Apparently in Western Mass, they're like, I got this like giant alert on my phone, like you would if there was like a fucking Amber Alert or a natural disaster heading your way. It's just like, don't drink the water, boil it. And you're like, what the fuck is going on in Springfield, West Springfield? I don't know. It's somewhere in Western Mass, but I was just like, Jesus. I thought it was for me at first. I'm like, you got to be. I have to deal with this inconvenience of not being able to use my own water, which I actually thought would be true because they're replacing all the water lines in my area, and you turn it on, and 9 times, like out of 10, it comes out fucking brown and orange because it's just rusty and shit as they replace everything. It's awful.
Anyway, so Okay, I don't. I mean, obviously, we don't want to give like this person any sort of shine off of this,
Mhm,
and we can go like we can glaze over this and move on if you want. But like the day that you and I talked,
mhm.
there was like a person in your comments that was just they were just going to
Yeah,
town on you in your comments, and you would think that based on like the subject matter and stuff that this would be like a conservative
yep,
Christian person that's just like chewing you out for being whatever, but this was like a person on like the total other end of things that was like obviously a very like left-leaning person that I assume was a gay person
yeah,
or you
yes,
know
yeah, yeah,
non anyways, I mean like really just chewing you out for like making any sort of like I mean basically like if I remember correctly like the post was something along the lines of like whether or not Jesus outright like condemned
yeah,
homosexuality, and the person was angry that you would even like reference Christianity as a possibility.
yeah.
I mean, is that something that you have gotten a lot of?
No, so this person specifically, so he picked a fight with a couple other I don't want to put myself in the deconstruction space because I don't identify with the culture, the community. You
Nobody
know,
wants to be in there.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's great. Like, and Casey, you and I have talked about this too. Where like like the intent of deconstruction is great, but it's becoming another faith system where it's like people, there's certain things you need to say, there's certain quotes, and all of that. Anyway, all that to say, being on the same side of the street, if you will, he's gone after other people on social media on multiple occasions, and I just sat back and watched it. Like, it was kind of the same thing where I was looking through the comments, and I'm just like, wow, this guy takes everything out of context. He's dangerous. So I unfollowed him. He kept following me up until that post. So yes, exactly. So I posted something that said, challenging evangelicals, like not even like claiming to be a Christian myself in any way, shape, or form. I want to make that statement loud and clear here on this podcast. I am not a Christian. I am not a person of faith. But basically just asking Christians, like, tell me, where did Jesus condemn homosexuality? Because that's the person that they claim to follow. And yes, just unleashed on me, basically, said, assumed I was a Christian, and using Christian terminology, to oppress him, whatever the hell it was. Like, and I'm like, dude, this is clearly your trigger. So like, I responded right away, just basically like, look, given your history on social media, I'm not going to engage. That opened up the floodgates for him, and he just kept going off, accusing me of, you know, I don't know what the hell he was. He was, basically trying to label me a Christian, my faith or whatever and stuff like that. And I just kept thinking about it. I'm like, where in anywhere in this post does it say that I'm a Christian? On my account, anywhere does it say I'm a Christian? You're just assuming. And so I just refuted back. Actually, I'll pull it up. I was looking at when you were talking about it. I basically came back and just said like something along the lines of like, well, hey, like, the way that you're judging me, the way that you're, labeling me, and then also coming so vehemently after me, you look more like the people that you claim to despise. And then he went and created a post on his account, tagged me in it. And then
so
like,
good.
I mean, it was just like, dude, and he's done this to other people before, so I should have known better. I didn't block him. I didn't want to block him because that would just add more, fuel to his fire and feel like he's victorious. But he's like, it. I want to say this lightly. It's when you're dogmatic on either side of the spectrum, whether it be, far left, far right, like your religion then becomes that dogma. Like, and so that's what I saw in him, where it was like, okay, well, great. Like, you're against the things that I'm also against, but I also don't nail people to a cross for thinking differently, or even posting something that has nothing to do, that triggers you, You know, like, and that's why. And on his post, I said, "Go get some help." Like, honestly, man, like this is like.
You seem cool and all, but find meds, please.
Literally, like, do us all a favor.
Yeah, there's like, I don't know. It is weird. Like, you know, and the word religion gets thrown around as like a slur against whatever, you know, all sorts of different ways. But it is funny how like it really is like there's a dogma that happens in like almost every community where people are if they're passionate about it, at some point like the priority becomes like protecting the doctrine of whatever that like ideology is, rather than like, you know, hearing people out or engaging with people or trying to understand their experience and stuff. And it's like in this case, this person is like just furious that you would ever engage with Christianity at all, as
Yeah.
if it's something worthy of your consideration. And yeah, I find that mentality to be just gross and
Yeah.
dumb. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, the idea that that the ideas of religion are so archaic or not worth engaging with is so dismissive of like most of the world. And I think that's what's so interesting about that perspective. Like they because it comes out under the guise of like this, like, oh, this awakening, like this self-actualization, like I'm truly better, which is obviously the world we grew up in and how we thought, right, that
Yeah.
we had achieved that. And then you change your mind enough times and you start to hopefully at least develop a sort of intellectual humility. um, Most people seem to just like flip teams and maintain the same level of dogmatism.
Yep.
Unwavering confidence in
Yeah.
their rightness.
Despite the fact that they're
Exactly.
like, everything I
Exactly.
used to believe is wrong and I was wrong about everything, so now I know I'm right. But that also indicates that black and white thinking, right? Like, I was wrong
Yep.
here, so now the opposite must be right. And it's like, you're still
Right.
living in a fundamentalist world. Like, that's the world
Yep.
that there is no in between. There's no gray. There's no good iterations of religion and bad iterations of religion. And that regardless of whether or not you even have a sense of spirituality, there's still like the concept of religion is still within humanity and not going
Yep.
anywhere. So it's like there's only so much. I don't know. I think it's so funny to like when people try to like delineate whether it's good or bad, and it's just like you
Yep.
could do the same with. I mean, there might be some bad ideas in the mix based on your perspective and opinions and what they're comfortable with, but even still, you're just like, I can look at any group of people and find good and bad in ideas that I wish they would shed, or based on my values,
Yep.
think of how like it would be better if they thought differently. Not that if they think like me, there's just like they just need to be, you know, just chill out a bit and just let people fucking live and let live, I guess. And that only
Yep.
goes to some extent because like some people make that their dogma. I don't, and then they become libertarians, and that's the worst. So it's like there's only so far you can take every idea, no matter how good the idea is. If you take it too far, it excludes so much of like what
Yeah.
other people's base beliefs could be based on their personal experience. And it's like we're never all going to think the same or all get along, but we can like work. The way you would work towards that is take a reasonable approach and not the same approach that
Right.
you lived in for 20 years when you told everyone they're going to go to hell because they thought different.
Exactly. And I 100% agree with that. Like there's if someone is so absolute in their way of thinking and nobody else can, you know, no other perspective can be taken into consideration, like it's not the belief system itself that's the issue. It's you. Like you like if I was to be, you know, outraged, you know, over you know, someone who doesn't understand, you know, my way of life, you know, that usually is an indication of an insecurity in what I'm feeling, as opposed to that person. Like even if someone was vile to me, like I wouldn't, if I was coming from a place of insecurity, I would fight that shit, you know, tooth and nail. But I don't have to prove myself to anybody, like in
Hell
my
yeah.
belief systems. I have a more conservative friend, and kind of on the same vein where he thinks differently, and we have conversations and we challenge each other to think differently. Specifically for him, he had gay friend. He's gay himself. He had gay friends who then cut him out because of a Facebook post that someone had posted about Kelly McCanley, basically wishing death on her, and he challenged that, and he's like, wait a second, like if we're the party of love and acceptance, why would we want to wish death on somebody? Yes, you may disagree with them, but it doesn't necessarily. And then they blocked him and stopped being his friends and all of that, and it's like that in and of itself is just like crazy, like I don't get that. Like,
the only person we should feel that way about is Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, and that's
exactly.
where I draw the line.
Right.
You got to draw it somewhere.
But and that's a good point too, where it's like, yes, like people who are very dogmatic about their way of being, who don't have any room for any other person's interpretation or life experience, absolutely, those people should not be entertained. People should be cut out. But same on the other side as well. Like people who, if you don't fight for this cause and believe in this, then you're the devil incarnate, or you're bad. It's like, wait, what? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, there's kind of like a persistent idea too among people that like we're fighting, like that they're fighting towards this ultimate end of like I think there was kind of like this prevailing like unspoken idea that eventually like conservatives are old and eventually all the conservatives are going to die, and then it'll just be liberal people and everything's going to be fine. I mean, that's an oversimplification, but that's kind of how people treat it, as like we just need to wait these people, like there's no need to engage with people, we just need to wait them out, and then when they're gone everything will be fine. And it's like, yeah, it's not how anything works. Like,
yeah,
there's a growing segment of conservatives, and like, I think I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not even just like amongst, typical like middle class whites where that segment's growing. I mean, there's like a big Latino segment of conservatism that's growing all the time and stuff. I mean,
which is so ironic.
I just think like
about their like virtue signaling for closed borders. It's like these people are coming in and voting for Trump. Like they love this shit. They're fine with it. Like by and large, statistically, obviously not as a whole. I'm not a sweeping generalization, but they're here for it. Like it's so wild.
Yeah, like you're not gonna wait them out though. I mean, this is gonna continue. Like there is no like light at the end of the tunnel where everybody's on your side of the aisle, so you can just cut those people off. Like you have to continually engage with them.
The hubris of thinking that you are single-handedly responsible for changing somebody's mind too is really aggravating now. Like I can't change anyone's mind. I won't in most situations. Like I can be myself and provide some, thoughts if they're open to a discourse, but otherwise, there's no hope to change. Like in the same way that like the people who would love to change my mind, unless there's an established rapport, they're not going to just throw a bunch of their understanding of the facts at me and be like, now you have to change your mind, right? It's like, no, I really don't, just because you said that. I'm trying to come up with like some quick conspiracy theory, but it who's the big guy everyone
he pulls
who's playing
a syringe of ivermectin out of his vein, and he's like, "Did you say something?"
Santos? Is it who's that's not it. Who's the guy that gets blamed?
Santos is the guy.
Santos. Okay. It's like, oh well, he's in charge of this and that, and you're like, okay, show me where, and then they're like, well, it's everywhere, and you're just like,
oh, you're talking about Soros, George Soros.
But it's like that guy. Like, I mean, that name comes up a lot with a certain sect of people, and you're just like, well, he's in charge of everything, and he blames this and that, and you're like, well, okay, I'm open to, but like our ideas of like what actually constitutes as evidence is so different that we can't actually have a conversation. We don't have any like ground to stand. Like there's no like mutual understanding.
It's a fundamental difference.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. So the hubris of like,
Yeah.
I'm going to change this person's mind by telling them what I think is like, dude, get the fuck out of here. Like, no one has time for
Yeah.
that anymore. No one, like, social psychology is known that doesn't work for decades. And but that's
Yeah.
like, that's where people are. They're just like, they think that they can because they had a thought, and
Yep.
it's, and then they just they go, well, that's fine. Like, oh yeah, you can take all your peer-reviewed research studies and shove them up your ass because I read something on 4chan, and you're like, I don't care. I'm not interested in these conversations.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like I had a very similar approach, especially after the 2016 election, like where like I was just like, I'm, anybody who voted for Trump, I'm not talking to you, and including my father. And had I put that into practice, we wouldn't have like, I think we lose sight of the evolutionary process in other people, where it's like, okay, fine, like,
yeah,
on a de-evolved level, I was at that level. And then as time went on, I was like, oh, wait a second. No, there's rational people who, probably, for their own reasons voted for Trump or whatever. But like my father now, like he now acknowledges that climate change is caused by man, and it's like, in his time, he's going to come to those realizations. Like he's not like the Lauren Bobarts and the Marjorie Taylor Greens and all these conspiracy theorists who, so I think that's the things that we think, okay, well, the other side is the enemy. They're the ones that are, but it's like, well, no, like I think about like in the 90s with the gay liberation movement, when the human rights campaign went into red communities and just basically talked to them about being gay and showing people like, look, like we have families just like you. We have kids just like you. We have values just like you. And that's what eventually chipped away and caused for gay marriage to eventually become legal. It took 30 fucking years for it to happen, but it happened because people were on the ground doing it, doing the work and being amongst people who they knew that they could, have rational conversations with. So yeah, this idea that we hold the truth and have the power and, to change, and it's like, it's bullshit. It's all part of, the Soros machine, to keep us divided.
Everything's a slow burn, just like our planet.
Right. Exactly. Slow burn.
So, not to take like a too hard of a turn, but you and I sat down. We did an episode of your podcast a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
And you said something that I've been thinking about ever since, that I wanted to ask you about, even though it's kind of like out of the blue here. But we got off on a tangent where we were talking about 9/11.
Yes.
And you mentioned like the way that people treated your family after 9/11, and because what is your family's heritage?
Lebanese. Yeah, on both. My mom, I'm first generation on my mom's side, second on my dad's.
None of them are pilots, are they?
No, they gave that up ironically around, I think it was like 2001.
They quit Florida flight school.
They failed. I don't know.
Like, I really put in a solid effort. I don't know why I got straight F's across the board.
Right. The goal was just to take off. We didn't learn how to land.
I know I did this better than that white guy that come in hungover every morning.
Oh my god, I love it.
Oh, man. So what was, do you remember some of those, like some of the instances of that happening when you were a kid?
Yeah, actually, so funny, I was born in, white as white can be, Santa Barbara area. And, sheltered, all of that, but still there were levels of I remember in high school, they would call, well, I don't want to say it on the show, but they would call me Sand and the N-word, Dune, C-word.
I've never heard that one before. Dune C-word. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
I've dropped the C-word on the show before, but I'll follow your lead here.
I know it's such a weird yeah, it's I I don't yeah, anyway.
I've never heard that before though. That's like an actual term that like people use.
Yeah. Specifically after 9/11,
No
it was
way.
like,
Interesting.
yeah, it was like a shift of racism.
You know what
It
the
was
real
like,
funny thing about
It's
this
a
is?
different C word than you're thinking, Sam.
oh yeah,
He has not
like,
dropped that C word, just so everybody knows.
Thank you for the clarification.
an abbreviated version of raccoon.
Oh,
Let's just
It
okay.
took
say
me a
that.
second.
Yeah.
So
No, well, thank you for saving.
I'm looking out for my boy here.
No,
Yeah.
Casey just saved the podcast. Well, that's hilarious. The only C word. That's the only C word I knew. I didn't really.
I know.
Oh yeah, that's how less racist I am than you guys.
I love it. I know you didn't even know that term.
Okay, well, just to like, that's the new cunts.
I say that all the time. Here's my address.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my god.
Wait, so what's the N word then? Because I thought no.
Yes. No, that N word, and I hope you've never used it on the podcast.
No, that was universal understanding of that one.
Right? No, yeah. There's no question on that one.
Yeah, but I get the second one now. It rhymes, so it's funny, right? It's
yes.
clever. Oh,
Yeah.
ha, ha, I get it.
Exactly.
Jesus.
Was it mostly just like annoying, like high school poking and prodding, or was any of it like real mean spirited?
Yeah, it was in high school. It was just poking and prodding. They would call me terrorist, like the list. But it was in in college actually. I don't know if I wrote about it in my book. Yes, I think I briefly wrote about it in my book. But there was a point where I was hanging out with these cowboys and all of that. This was like 2005, so 4 years after 9/11. And they would rope me, like they would like practice, like they would get their ropes and like lasso me and like drag me to the ground and then call me these names and all of that.
Fuck?
Yeah, and I mean it was like it wasn't fun, but you could tell it was like I still have the scars here from the rope burns because they it literally they would like get me. My hands would be at my side, and the rope would go, across my above my forearm, and they would like pull on it, and it like ripped the the skin there. So yeah, I still have.
Jeez,
it's like not as like noticeable, but yeah. So yeah, But that's the thing; they were my friends, but it also was like because I was the Middle Eastern, I wasn't the white guy. They thought I was the perfect target for that. And I was like doing it in good fun, whatever. I was 19, 20 years old at the time. But looking back on it, I was like, oh yeah, no, a lot of that was like racially motivated. And then, yeah, our family, like they would say like, don't say you're from the Middle East, like, say you're Greek or say you're, like some other ethnicity, like, because my dad never shared his experiences, but I could tell he also had some experiences as well. But yeah, it was an interesting, like we took it with we're like a family that just kind of laughs things off and stuff. But like looking back on it was like, oh yeah, no, that was like our release. That was our way of like dealing with the racism, if you will.
Damn, that's some wild shit. High school is such a weird time because it's like there is this idea amongst kids that you're almost less racist when you make more racist jokes or do like racist things. And it's like, I'm not, like, I'm doing it ironically because I'm funny. And like, it's like, I'm standing out like there. And I feel like I saw that a lot, obviously just in my own life, but then like, as then when my foster son moved in and he went through high school, my foster son's black, and you're like, oh, like you're experiencing it from the other end, of course, but it's like there's just that idea of like, oh, we'll make the black jokes, we'll do this or that. And when you're a teenager and your brain's pretty underdeveloped and you've maybe been instilled with race, like I don't necessarily even believe that these kids are racist. I think they might have, I think they actually truly have, good relationships with people who aren't white, but you're like, they're underdeveloped brains, and their environment and the world they came from. It's like it's obviously fucked up and wrong, but it's like that's their way of trying to not be. It's really fucked up, and they're kids. They're kids. At the end of the day, they're kids, and they've been done a disservice, and they're processing it wrong, and they need adults who aren't going to freak out, deal with that.
And
they
they're
need
annoying and not funny
yeah.
ever.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Also
High schoolers are not funny ever. But yeah, it's like that's so strange to think of, like you talking about that, and they're like, it was in good fun. And it's like, they probably convinced themselves that it was, and they were like, and then hopefully a lot of them, as they became
But
actual adults, are like, holy fucking shit. I can't even start a podcast now, because if this comes out, then it's like,
yeah, right.
which is the ultimate form of oppression.
I
really.
know, because it's not fair, dude. Every white person needs a podcast. I mean, it's just not. This isn't fair to white males. So now they really are being treated poorly. It's kind of your fault, George. I don't want to
I know it's all my fault. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for existing. No, but it's true though. Like, I mean, I think about it in my family context. We were racist, but that was kind of our way of dealing with the racism. Like, it was like, it's like, and that's where, this conversation about racism and all of that, like, I obviously want to tread lightly on this subject because I don't want to be misinterpreted. But, this idea, yes, like, I'm in a profession where I am very, very well aware that it is the white man who has drafted up the tax code to make it intentionally complicated for them to benefit off of it and all of that. Totally get it. Totally agree. But also, like, and I get it with institutions and all of that. But when we scapegoat and say all white people are racist, or all whatever, that blanket statement, it's like, well, no. Like, we all have some sort of racism in us. Like, and I get the argument in the sense of, like, well, has it been used for forms of oppression and all of that? But, like, again, when I was at this show, like, they were all joking about other races, including white people, but other races. But I think that it's this idea that, like, look, like, we need to start with self first and see what what are our racial, our tendencies towards being racist towards other people or groups. Like, I remember, like, my grandma would always talk about Mexicans and, Asian people and all of that. And it was just like, it's like we all have some sort of inclination to be racist, and it's not just a one skin color problem. I think it's a human problem that we need to face, and it needs to start with ourselves.
Yeah, especially when you talk about your grandma, like in like other immigrants being like, did your grandma live here? You said? So it's like,
she immigrated
yeah,
here. Yeah.
So when you're dealing with, like, immigrant, it's like there's like an oppression for that. There's like that. So that kind of is the human condition of, like, it's scapegoating. It really is. And people will find a way to do it. And of course we can see worse iterations of it that require a lot more effort to deal with societally. But yeah, I mean, I think that really is it. And if it's not if it's not racism, and you live in, like, all white everything area, it's liberals and conservatives, like, they're the problem. This is the problem. Like, that's just what people are going to continuously do.
Communities split along different lines.
They have to, and that's your way of, like, protecting your bubble, your whatever. And you can look throughout history and see the way that they delineated people. It's like, before race was the iteration, it was like cultures and cultural differences, or just literally city lines. Like, it's just always been that way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Protect the group. Exact religion. Casey, I think you were going to say this, but, like, religion started to protect the group, to protect the tribe. Like, that's all it was. And then it became the other religion that were, their gods are wrong. So I think it's a next step of our evolutionary process as a species to transcend that, by acknowledging, like, look, we're all, this is going to sound, like hippy dippy, but, like, and very cliche, but it's like, we all are of the same race. Like, we all, like, again, and that's not a statement to discredit anybody's oppression or any, experiences. We need to acknowledge that and find a way to remedy those things. But I think it also is going to take the collective for us to then transcend that and be like, look, like it doesn't matter if you're black or you're Mexican or you're white or you're, or the other term they used to say to me is towel head. That was another.
I'm sure.
Yeah. It's all coming back to me now as I'm talking about it.
Even though you
I'm glad I can help you excavate those dark corners of your brain.
Yeah, exactly. It's like what is it? The box or anyway.
It's funny that they would say towel head like you wore a turban. Like that's what
right.
You're showing up to school in a turban. They're just like repeating the dumbest shit they've heard. It's all it is.
Right, exactly.
Well, do you guys want to hear a story?
Yeah.
Is it about two mice?
It's not actually.
In a bowl of milk.
It's about a young lady who found herself in a predicament.
Oh, predicaments are fun.
So, George, we've been going through books of the Apocrypha and looking at some stories that are they're in the Snyder cut of the Bible.
So I love it.
Were you familiar with the Apocrypha? Did you ever read any of the stories? Like, what's your connection or understanding of the Apocrypha?
So I know about the Protestant split, and it was mostly because of that. I remember though when I was in the church, we were told never to read them because they would be, they were deceitful and all that shit. So I never I think I looked up something about the what is it, the Book of Magnar? There's some sort of female book. Maybe that's why they actually a certain woman.
That's the only one I refuse to read now.
But yeah, I don't know much of the context other than what I was taught in Bible college, quote unquote.
Yeah, which the irony, right? You're in Bible college, and it's like this has been in some people's Bible for a very long time, but we're gonna pretend like that's not true.
Exactly.
It's been funny getting into it because it's just different than I thought. I just had different expectations of it. We've gone through several stories now. And I was just like, oh shit, this is what's been there. And I said on the last episode we did where we went through the Apocrypha, like an apocryphal story, I was just like, oh my God, for a while, I'm like, oh, it's wild that Protestants were like, we're not going to use this. Even if you consider it extra biblical, it's contextual. It was written at the right time period for it to be relevant-ish. And after reading several of these stories, I'm by no means an expert, and we've only read a handful, and we intentionally picked the funniest and most interesting ones. But this is the first time in my life I've been Team Protestant in a long time, or ever. And I'm like, these books I get why they were left out now. They don't add exactly what I thought they did or might have. They don't add anything that it makes me think of the first time I watched, I remember when I first watched Spider-Man, watched the deleted. That was the first DVD I got that had deleted scenes. It wasn't a director's cut. You didn't watch it all together, but I could just click through the deleted scenes. And you would watch a 30 or 40-second scene that they just cut out of the movie. And you're like, I was jazzed, man. I was like, I can't wait. I was I wanted it. That was at the time in my life where I'm trying to figure out who I am and what I want, what I'm into. You try skateboarding, rollerblading, you suck at everything you do. You're like, maybe I could be a cinephile. So
let's watch Spider-Man.
So then you're just like, I'm going to watch deleted scenes and pretend like I give a shit. And I watched them and I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to be that guy either because this is fucking useless. It added nothing. I get why they cut it out. It's not needed.
What was your expectation?
I don't know. Probably a little bit more. Who was in the first Spider-Man? Tobey Maguire and alongside what's her name?
Oh yeah, Kirsten Dunst.
I was probably hoping to see a little bit more Kirsten Dunst nipple through a wet t-shirt. Is probably what I was hoping for.
It's I hope there's more upside down smooches.
Yeah. I'm hoping for he just goes a little bit lower and we get a little 69 action.
or what was your expectation of the Apocrypha?
Oh, that it would have been more like edifying to some degree. Like you'd be like, oh, that's a really interesting story that provides additional context to some characters or provides insight into a time period. And I'm just like, none of this seems to matter to me at all.
Yeah.
Now, okay, to be fair, like Maccabees it probably doesn't fit into that category. I think the books of Maccabees are very historically important to like Jewish tradition. So like I'll rule those. We haven't gone through those. I'm just saying, going through some of them, we're like, maybe they could have kept like 50% of them because we
It's
read through some and we're like, I didn't need to
if
know what this person thought hell was like. It's not
they
even a
fit into two
person.
categories. It's either dragons or rape.
Mhm.
It's one
Oh,
of the two. It seems to be about
they're-
every story.
homage to Old Testament, like.
Pretty much. The dragon ones are fun.
But which one are you bringing us today, Casey? I wasn't expecting this. Is a twist for me. I was not expecting an Apocrypha story.
Oh man, so you start looking around at like all the different things that people, there's a bunch of different like BuzzFeed articles. It's like the craziest stories cut from the Bible, and some of them are, I mean, certifiably insane. But then there's just nothing to really draw from, other than like, oh yeah, in this story drawn from like an allegory that this guy made about it, Jesus jerks off in front of Mary Magdalene and then eats his semen.
Yeah.
Wait, that's actually in it. Wait, I'm so confused. Or that's what you?
Or no,
Oh.
okay, so he oh man, I can't remember how like the context of where this book came from, but it was like
Are you sure you're not thinking of that story you told where the minnows came and ate your cum out of the ocean?
very similar, and that's why it's relatable.
You're like, actually, Jesus and I have a lot in common because minnows both ate our cum.
Oh my god, I want to hear that story now.
Everyone's like, oh my god, you told that story.
That's amazing.
No, it was like some sort of heretical group. They were called like the Philippinites or something like that. This uh, anyways, in the story, they supposedly had this book where Jesus is talking to Mary Magdalene. He's trying to demonstrate to her like life and his divinity and stuff, and he like pulls a woman out of his side, has sex with her in front of Mary Magdalene, and then catches his semen and eats it.
Wait,
No way. I want to see
what?
this porn.
And she
I
goes
know, right?
like literally like the little bit of that I could find about the story, like he does this and Mary Magdalene goes "Ugh, ugh," and he says, "O ye of little faith," or
Oh
something like
gosh.
that.
Oh, ye of little seed.
But no, so this week we're going to the Infancy Gospel of James. And this one seems a lot less crazy than a lot of the other ones that we've pulled from. Uh, this is more of a New Testament addendum story. And one of the interesting things about looking at the Apocrypha is it seems like even though these are kind of like shunned among Protestant circles and nobody is supposedly reading them or anything, I think there is some of the lore around the Bible stories that we grew up with. I think kind of like loosely comes down to us through like apocryphal books,
Mm.
That's possible.
It's like the expanded version of the story, some of the details. But this is all about
Wait, you're saying
Jesus's birth.
this can't be an apocrypha. Like this can't be in the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha is all like between. It was like the intertestamental period, I believe. Is what
Maybe
they would
this
call
is a
it.
Gnostic gospel. I don't
Yeah,
know. It's
that
all the
sounds.
same to me.
Yeah,
It's the
same
infancy
relevance.
gospel of James. But so basically it's all about like Jesus's birth and like Mary and Joseph mitigating like her being pregnant and stuff like
Hell yeah,
that.
this
And
is Gnostic gospel shit.
there's some interesting like additional things in here about Mary and Joseph's struggles through all this. So
He couldn't get it up,
first
could
off,
he?
no, he had a very nervous, flaccid boner. So, chapter 13, we're just going to take bits and pieces of this because it's too much. But chapter 13, it says that, and she was in her 6th month. And look, Joseph came from his building and he came into the house and found her pregnant. So basically, like, she's starting to show at this point. And Joseph's going like,
6 months in.
how did this get here?
I'm going to guess that Joseph isn't a very observant person.
Yes, right.
Everybody was probably malnourished at the time, too. And it says, and he struck his face and flung himself on the ground in sackcloth and wept bitterly, saying, how can I look to the Lord God? What prayer can I say about this young girl, since I took her as a virgin from the temple of the Lord God and didn't protect her? Who has set this trap for me? Who has done this evil thing in my house? Who has defiled the virgin? Aren't I reliving the story of Adam? For as Adam was glorifying in an hour of prayer, the serpent came, found Eve alone, and deceived her. And now it's happened to me.
Okay.
So he's having a bad day.
So he just finds out she's 6 months pregnant. They've been living together because he comes down. They're in seemingly in the same house, right? Is that?
I don't know. It says comes down from his building and came into the house. So I don't think they're living together.
They're not. So they're not married yet.
But he said too, who's done this in my house, right?
Yes.
Well, she's a woman, so he at least owns everything she does, even if they're not married yet.
That's true.
She's furniture. She's part of the house.
Context, we're reading from the supposed scriptures.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out if he's like, we've been married for 6 months and I haven't even had sex with her yet. And all of a sudden she's pregnant.
Well, and she had been a part of some sort of like the priest clergy, whatever, had wanted to like make a veil for the temple. And so they like went and gathered only the purest, cleanest virgins from the town, Mary among them.
Skinned them alive.
They divvied up like sections of this colored veil for these girls to make. So Mary was among the like clean, pure, unsullied virgins that was there at the temple. And Joseph is supposedly like, he's courting her or whatever. He's taking her from the temple. And now he's all upset because everybody's about to realize that she's pregnant and they're not married, and now it's a mess, right?
Okay.
And Joseph stood from the sackcloth and called to her and said to her, God cared for you. Why have you done this? You've forgotten the Lord your God. Why have you humiliated your soul? You were nourished in the Holy of Holies and received food from the hand of an angel. And she wept bitterly, saying, I'm pure. I haven't known a man. And Joseph said, where then did this thing in your womb come from?
That sounds about right.
Strong words. And she said, as the Lord my God lives, I don't know where it came from. So
I wonder how many claims
tense.
of virgin births there are a year. It's got to be like a good handful.
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, nowadays or back then?
Yeah, no, nowadays. Like, I feel like people will be like, no, I swear I didn't have sex. Like, I feel like that's still like I bet there's still, like, when you go to the hospital and you're having a baby.
TLC show
and they're like, who's the father? And you're like, there isn't one. I've never had sex. I mean, that has to be documented if they're not claiming any father.
Right.
I bet there's like a stat on the number of women a year that claim they have a virgin birth.
I'm going to Google it now.
He's conceived by the Force. Check his midichlorian count.
The Force skin?
Exactly. So at that point, that's when Joseph has a dream and the angel appears to him and basically says like, hey, I knocked your girl up and she's pregnant with the Son of God, and you're going to call his name Jesus because he'll save his people from their sins.
Hell yeah.
Sorry, Sam, nearly 1% of U.S. women claim they are virgins. They had virgin
That's
births.
Incredibly high.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's like 32 women a year on average claim this. 1%? How many people what's the average pregnancy rate? Holy shit, 1% of pregnancies.
I would just love to hear the conversation surrounding that.
Right?
It'd just be so much fun.
They're like, ma'am, do you want me to ask your parents to leave the room? And they're like, that might be good. We could have an honest conversation then.
So,
Sorry.
okay. At this point, Jesus or Mary and Joseph end up back at the temple. And of course, that's when people start raising eyebrows at their situation. So bringing a new character into the mix. His name is Anus.
Shut the fuck up. Spell it.
He's a scribe.
Spell
And
it.
Anus, Annas.
Probably
Anus.
an ass.
Don't
ass.
take this from me.
It doesn't get much. There's no but.
Take this from me.
There probably isn't a better way to pronounce it. Honestly, like every way you could pronounce it is a problem.
Right. Anas.
Yeah, there's just nowhere good to go with it. It's the biblical Richard.
Old dick.
And Annas the scribe came to him and said to him, Joseph, why haven't you appeared among our traveling group? And he said, because I was weary from the trip and rested the first day back. So kind of a, hey, where you been skulking around, buddy? We haven't seen you in a while. Nobody's cleaned the toilets or something. I don't know. And Annas turned and saw Mary pregnant. And he quickly went to the priest and said to him, Joseph, about whom you bore witness, has acted very lawlessly. What a turd, dude.
He probably was like,
go.
Oh, he probably was like a closeted homosexual. So he like needed to. He's just like, I'm gonna prove myself. That's why he was named Anus.
Anus is Randall from Recess.
Yeah.
Miss Finster. To see him like putting his notebook down and being like, "Ooh, I'm talent." And the priest said, "What's this?" And he said, "The virgin that Joseph took from the temple of the Lord, he's defiled her and has stolen her wedding and hasn't revealed it to the people of Israel." Basically, Joseph knocked up Mary and he's been keeping it secret and just, making himself scarce around here to cover it up.
And the only problem is that it was a woman who was like sanctified or set apart by some fashion for God in the temple, because there's never really been a problem with men just having sex with prostitutes or anything like that. Even like other temple prostitutes was a thing that people would just go and have sex with and go home and be like, it's all fine, nothing to see here. So that's what's interesting is they're like, just because like Mary in this story, Mary was like somehow, I don't know, it's like, oh, she's part of the right temple for the right people, and they don't care that Joseph had sex with somebody. They care that Joseph had sex with Mary.
Yeah. And also, didn't the angel come before the pregnancy to say that she was going to bear a child? So like, is that why it was left out? Because it contradicted that story?
Possibly. I don't know. I think it's interjecting like this Joseph conundrum in between the time when it was revealed to Mary and when it was revealed to Joseph. Like, he had his nervous fit. He gets a dream where God tells him it's all right. And now he has to somehow convince the public that that's the case.
To trial.
Stone her.
That was a fast trial. It's always quick.
Yeah, right.
If you should read the book of Susanna.
And Annas the scribe said to him, "Send officers, and you'll find the virgin pregnant." And the officers went and found her just as he said, and they led her together with Joseph to the court. So things are heating up for the two. And the chief priest said to her, "Mary, why have you done this? Why have you humiliated your soul and forgotten the Lord your God? You were raised in the Holy of Holies and received food from the hand of an angel, and you heard its hymns and danced before it. What is this that you've done?
All I'm hearing is gender neutral pronouns about an angel. That's all I picked up on here.
Maybe that's why it
So
was
progressive.
excluded.
That's why that's why they kicked this book out. They're like, oh wait, it.
You can't have this in school libraries in Florida. They're all Protestants there.
Oh my God.
And she wept bitterly, saying, as the Lord God lives, I'm pure before God, and I haven't known a man. And the priest said, Joseph, what is this that you've done? And Joseph said,
Just
as
ignores
the
her.
Lord God lives, and the witness of God's truth, I'm
We've
pure
only
toward
face
her.
fucked. Oh no.
They're both just have like chapped, like Ernest in the army lips.
Like, quick, test my gag reflex. I'll prove it.
Wast thine canteens full of chocolate milk? And the priest says, don't bear false witness, but tell the truth. You stole her wedding and didn't reveal it to the people of Israel, and you haven't bowed your head under the mighty hand that should bless your offspring. And Joseph fell silent. You gotta get a lawyer, dude.
Yeah.
Don't try to represent yourself. So this is where it gets wild. There's two pieces to this story that maybe go, what? And this is the first. And the priest said, return the virgin you took from the temple of the Lord. And Joseph was tearful. And the chief priest said, I'll give you the water of the Lord's rebuke to drink, and it'll reveal your sin in your eyes. Now, what do you fellas think that means? I had to do a little Googling.
Yeah, and then you hopefully had safe search on. Because getting a little bit of water from the Lord in your eyes seems potentially problematic.
Any guesses? Because
Oh
this is actually a very this is interesting practice that was around.
Was it P?
No.
Oh, that's a great guess.
That would make me feel rebuked for sure.
I'm trying to think. Is it bodily?
No. So
did Jesus have to
they would take like, so the process is like, and I'm not gonna give this the explanation that it deserves, but
who does it deserve, Casey? This book sounds
the
insane.
process is called strayer in Hebrew, and it's kind of a term that's not found in the Hebrew Bible, but it says the Mishnah Hebrew based on the verse "if she strayed" in Numbers 5:12, and it's basically like a ritual that was done in situations where, just like this, where like a woman is accused of adultery, or someone is pregnant outside of wedlock, and basically the woman's pregnant, and either she is saying that like she didn't cheat on her husband, or her husband is saying that she did, and it's basically situations like this. This is the ancient paternity test.
It's a bukkake, isn't it? Fuck. I can tell.
So basically the husband has to like make an offering, and the woman has to like swear an oath of like that she basically has to like put her hand on the Bible and swear that like she's telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So then they make this concoction out of the offering, leftovers, and then flour and a couple other items that more or less make like a potion, right? And that's the woman is then supposed to drink it, and it's kind of like, basically, if it like induces a miscarriage, then that means that you're guilty. That's considered like
Interesting.
The
the accusation of adultery or impurity is considered to be like divinely figured out at that point.
Has it ever happened, I wonder? Like a miscarriage after drinking that?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
It's the pregnancy version of the witch trials.
Yeah,
Like,
literally.
oh, if you can't swim, you're a witch.
Yeah, if she weighs less than a duck, then she's a witch, sort of thing.
Oh no, it was actually if you can swim, you're a witch, right? Because then it's like, if you drown, you were a person, and oops are bad. But if you can swim, you're a witch, and we're gonna kill you anyway. It's like I think that's what it was, right?
Pretty much, yeah, that was it. So it's something
Damned
like
if you
that.
do, damned if you don't.
Also known as the good old days.
Also known as a good, yeah.
So it's more or less like a concoction designed to like it's like an abortion inducing elixir that they make.
At 6 months, I mean, that would raise any radicals' radars.
Yeah, which it's crazy to me, because I was reading this, and like, the fact that this is in like the Old Testament and stuff like that. I mean, that is wild that this is a part of the process, and it's not something that gets acknowledged, of course,
Right.
nowadays.
It's basically oxytocin. When they're like, when you're super pregnant and you're in labor and you're not like there, they give you like, yeah, they use oxytocin to induce labor.
Really? Oh, I wouldn't know that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, that's what. Yeah, it's that's what it is.
Yeah, me neither.
Interesting.
We're more kitten people.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You see my child behind me.
Yeah. Like the one actual statement I made with facts, and you're just like, it's like just falls on deaf ears. They're like,
yeah.
That is impressive that you know that offhand.
Yeah.
Just I'm out of my depth in that realm. So basically it says, in taking the water, the priest gave it to Joseph and sent him into the wilderness, and Joseph returned unharmed. So in this case, because of the nature of what's going on, they made Joseph go through this same process as well. And I guess, I mean,
Miscarry?
Yeah, I don't know if the idea was like, well, if he gets really sick and just like, I don't know, if the diarrhea reaches a fever pitch, then, like, we know that he's been banging. So they gave it to Mary, sent her into the wilderness, and she returns unharmed as well. And all the people were amazed that their sin wasn't revealed. And the priest said, if the Lord God hasn't revealed your sin, neither do I judge you. And he set them free. And Joseph took Mary and went to his house, rejoicing and glorifying the God of Israel.
With diarrhea.
Yeah. He just leaves a trail of it.
They rejoiced and left, leaving, making frequent stops in bushes and cactuses.
I love how they're like, if the Lord doesn't reveal your sin, we're like, look, we know you did it, but the Lord hasn't revealed it. So for some reason, God doesn't want us to kill you.
Right.
Because God is good all the time.
Yeah.
All the time, God is good.
That saying.
Dude, the murmuring in the crowd had to be like funny to listen to, because like, even if this was the case and the priest was like, hey, everything checks out, I guess you're innocent, I'm not gonna judge you, there's just people arguing, like elbowing each other in the crowd, and they're just like, right. This is garbage, she definitely banged him.
Oh, Anus was pissed too.
Anus is just like furiously scribbling.
Yeah,
There-
exactly.
There's one dude in the crowd who lets out this giant sigh of relief, like, holy shit, I thought they were going to catch me.
Right? He's back on the prowl.
There's a lot of like, cough, cough, guilty, cough. So they made it through the test. So that was like kind of part one of the story. We're going to kind of skip ahead through to the point where like Jesus's birth is happening.
We're going to get visuals.
Yeah. So
crowning and everything.
The picture Bible.
It gets a little graphic for a second. But so basically like we're jumping in right in the middle of like Mary and Joseph. They're in Bethlehem and it's time to have the baby. And
How far apart are her contractions at this point?
Right. Right.
you wanted in cubits or what?
Cubits.
0.75. Anyway, so they're in
That's
this
dilation.
You dilated a cubit. That's a bad day.
3/4. You're 3/4 of a cubit dilated. You're dead. I don't.
Yeah,
That baby
passing the baby sideways.
It's literally falling out of you like an adult giraffe giving birth to a baby.
Sludge and all.
It just drops 8 feet and splats onto the planet.
Here's your savior.
I think that was how Steve-O was born. So in this retelling of the events of his birth, Mary is looking for a midwife. So they're running around looking for this midwife, and it says, "And look, a woman coming down from the mountain, and she said to me, 'Man, where are you going?' And I said, 'I'm seeking a Hebrew midwife.' And in reply, she said to me, 'Are you from Israel?' And I said to her, 'Yes.' Then she said, 'And who's the one giving birth in the cave?' And I said, 'My betrothed.' And she said, 'She's not your wife?' And I said to her, 'Mary was nurtured in the temple of the Lord, and it was decided by lot that she would be my wife. Yet she's not my wife, but she's conceived from the Holy Spirit.'" It had to sound really. It had to be a great like thing to listen. You know he was just like sweating bullets and stammering the whole time he was trying to explain it.
And she's just like, "Oh, okay."
So technically no, but it's funny. She actually God impregnated her. So the midwife says, "Really?" Joseph said to her, "Come and see." And the midwife went with him, and they stood in front of the cave. And a bright cloud overshadowed the cave. And the midwife said, "My soul is magnified today, because my eyes have seen something wonderful. Salvation has been born to Israel."
She saw
So the
3/4
pyrotechnics
of
were
an
on
inch.
point.
She saw 3/4 of a cubit dilation. Was like, it's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
It was just
She
like
goes down to check it out, and she actually just goes face to face with the baby Jesus before he pops out, and she's like, "Holy shit!"
there's just like light coming out.
Could you imagine? It's like that was her experience, and like, could you imagine if that was interpreted? Like, that's how Jesus became the savior, was because she interpreted it this way. It's like have you seen Life of Brian?
I actually, it's
I haven't. No.
unreasonable that Casey and I have not seen that movie.
It's hilarious. I watched it on Christmas a couple of Christmases ago. It's hilarious because it's like you imagine how it could have actually gone down, where like one person says something and so then everybody else believes it. Like, I wonder if that's like the same thing here, where it's like, you know, it's a miracle, it's the savior, and everyone's like, oh my god, it's a savior. Wait, no, not literally. I didn't mean like.
She looks Jesus face to face and comes out and looks like she got a really shitty spray tan just on her face.
that 2002 prom orange.
2002 prom orange, and also former President Donald Trump. It's like,
oh, that's where they get the savior complex in Trump.
Dude, I went to a wedding. Oh man, it was when I still lived in Michigan. It was like sort of a family affiliated thing, but this girl's getting married, and it's late 2000s, and so
She's
she
6
goes
months
in
pregnant.
like the day before.
3/4 of a cubit dilated.
Yeah, exactly. She stood over a trough and got like dude,
over a trough.
like over a dairy bucket.
Oh my god.
Watch that baby churn butter.
over a novelty sized hot dog bun.
That was tucked into somebody's sleeve.
Oh my god.
But this girl went in like 2 days before her wedding and got like the most insane spray tan you've ever seen.
Hell yeah.
Dude, it's like when you get a brand new pair of shoes and like the white soles around the bottom are like, they're so bright they almost hurt your eyes to look at. It's just like magnificent. And then they slowly like dull down to a normal look,
Yeah.
She like, dude, the swatch next to like you could have taken her to Home Depot and like swatched her next to like the
purest white
the Rachel Ray Autumn collection,
Oh my god.
She's like pumpkin pie, I think.
Oh my god.
The flavor.
Pumpkin spice. Yeah. It's the season.
I don't think that she cared. She didn't seem to be like worried about it at all, but everybody else is like, oh my god.
I want to see the wedding photos. I wonder if you had it like edited, like heavily edited.
Oh man, I bet you I can find. I might have to go looking for those. So the midwife sees this big light. It says immediately the cloud withdrew from the cave, and a great light appeared in the cave, so that their eyes couldn't bear it. And I imagine that's a little like when you were at Liberty, like when you were making out behind the dining hall in your car, and then like the LUPD spotlight hit the window. It's like the same level of panic and shock. And a little later, the light withdrew until an infant appeared, and he came and took the breast of his mother Mary.
He appeared.
I missed this earlier.
It appeared and immediately crawled up his mom and started suckling. That's some like Omen level creepy ass bullshit.
Dude, he unzipped her blouse.
Do you guys remember this?
He reached around her and unclasped her bra in a perfect fluid motion
with his feet.
There was an episode of Rugrats that was like Tommy Pickles has this dream because like he thinks this is me trying to recall at the moment something I saw way too long ago, but I want to say Tommy is having a dream because his mom might be his mom's pregnant. And this is before Tommy eventually ends up having like a baby brother later on in the series. Mom's pregnant. He has this dream, and it's like the baby comes out and it's huge, it's giant, and it talks like an old smoker. And it's like the line that sticks with me forever is Tommy's like kind of freaking out about him. He's like destroying everything, and he's like, baby want num nums. I remember when I watched it as a child being like uncomfortable with how fucking weird the episode was.
Yahweh want num nums.
Yeshua, what? Nom nums. Also, it seems too close to Jar Jar Binks when I say it.
Dude, I love the
Pizza, what?
idea.
Yum yums.
Oh my god.
Hell
So, yeah, he walks up and starts breastfeeding. And the midwife cried out and said, "How great today is for me that I've seen this new miracle." And the midwife went out from the cave, and Salome met her. Or Salami. Let's
Salami.
go with
Yeah,
salami.
I like that. Yeah.
We got anus, salami,
And look, I don't know who Salami is. I don't know if he's her husband or just somebody that's around. I did not gather who Salami is in this story at all, but he's a guy, and he's here, and he's about to play a really fun role in this whole thing.
It's important that men who have no introduction have names, while women who have actual baseline stories are unidentified. It's a really
Midwife.
important theme.
Right. I think the writer like literally was probably going around the room and be like, all right, who wants to be in this story now? And like just like throws in characters. Like
He's just writing in little
salami.
How do you spell that? Okay. As it sounds.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And she said to okay, so this is a woman. Salami's a woman. And she said to her, Salami, I have to describe a new sight to you. A virgin has given birth, which is against her nature. Salami said, as the Lord my God lives, unless I examine her condition, I won't believe that the virgin has given birth. Which
examine her. Okay.
Salami is kind of painted out to be a blasphemous jerk in the story, but I feel like that's a pretty reasonable position to be in.
Well, questioning God is never reasonable. Okay? Just want to make that clear.
That's fair.
So, how does she test this out?
Well,
she like
the old-fashioned way.
She just spreads Mary's pussy wide open and inspects it. She's like, if a baby just dropped out, then I can peek in there.
It's not exactly what it says.
Okay.
But
okay.
It says, and the midwife went in and said,
shut the fuck
Mary, position yourself, because there's no small test coming concerning you.
Mary, put your feet in these stirrups.
Right. We gotta
basically it.
Wow.
Mary, get in the trough. And I get this is an abbreviated version of the story apparently, but it says, and Salami examined her.
So, okay, you're telling me Mary was examined with a salami. I think this got mistranslated over the years.
Right. Game of telephone.
Yeah.
You can't put this in the Bible. I mean, it's, again, back their decision. So, yeah, there's only one way to really take this. It's that she reached up
right up
Mary's
anus.
skirt.
No.
She didn't just look, okay? Because it says, and Salami cried out and said, whoa! Because of my lawlessness and my unbelief, because I've tested the living God, and look, my hand is on fire and falling away from me.
Oh my God.
She fisted Mary and got set on fire for it. That's unreal.
Dude, Mary's like a xenomorph from Alien.
Are we sure
her knuckles off?
Are we sure that Mary's vagina isn't the savior? Like screw the kid. Like this thing has been through a lot. Like,
I know. I think Mary's the actual Jesus at this point,
right?
That's a very Catholic position of you fellas to take. So yeah, like that's how it's understood. From what I've seen other things talk about, the way that it's understood is that she literally like reached into Mary, and her hand dissolved.
Wow.
And she dropped to her knees before the Lord, saying, God of my ancestors, remember me, that I've descended from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Don't make an example of me to the people of Israel, but give me back to the poor, because you know, Lord, that in your name I've healed people, and I've received my wages from you.
She says
And
while
look,
shaking her stub to the sky.
Right, literally.
don't do this to me, God. That's my trigger finger.
My trigger finger.
I can't play cornhole left-handed. And look, an angel of the Lord appeared, saying to her, Salami, salami. The Lord of all has heard your prayer. Bring your hand to the child and lift him up, and you'll receive salvation and joy.
And don't forget the charcuterie board.
Those little 22-grain crackers that it's like a bag of oats in one tiny square.
It's all the scraps.
The world's driest meat.
Nothing angers me more than the cost of charcuterie boards, by the way. This isn't the right tangent at the right time, but you brought it up, and I'm like, I can buy a full meal for $23, but the charcuterie board is $34, and I won't even be full. It's unreasonable.
And they're so easy to make.
So unfair. All right, moving on. Sorry, I just need to get my charcuterie gripes in while I had the chance.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, there's nothing more disappointing when somebody's like, hey, appetizers, anybody want appetizers? And you're like, oh, I could go for an appetizer, and they're like, we'll take the charcuterie board.
Yeah.
You're like, there was onion rings.
That's
you don't
like,
see the onion rings?
Right.
You asked for the wooden block.
4 times less.
You asked for the wooden block spread with moldy cheese and dates fermented in somebody's asshole? That's what you wanted for dinner.
No, in Mary's vagina.
You so fancy. You ordered charcuterie board when there's Southwest egg rolls right there. And Salami joyfully went to the child and lifted him up, saying, I worship him, because a great king has been born to Israel. And immediately Salami was healed, and she left the cave justified.
Or she lifted him with one hand then and then was healed? Like,
God restored her little cocktail weenies.
Yeah.
This is starting to feel like it's starting to feel like a David Blaine trick. A real what the F David Blaine from 2004.
Dude, it is like that episode of Arrested Development with the Sword of Destiny.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, you're right. It's enough. It's a deep reference, but
Coming
and
in
look,
with a deep
a
cut.
voice was saying, Salami, Salami, don't report the wonderful things you've seen until the child comes into Jerusalem. And that draws our story to a close.
Hell yeah, that was gripping. Ooh. I would like to see that made into like a haphazardly pieced together film.
Yes,
I think we're the right ones to make it.
A comedy drama, like
yeah, a lot of creative license. License.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of qubits. A lot of dilation.
I cast. I want to cast Anus. I think he would be like the perfect. Like,
who would you cast? Who would you cast as Anus?
God. Oh, that's a good question. It have to be like an old sassy gay guy.
Ooh, I like that.
Like, hands down, like. He's been scorned so many times in the church, so he has to come after everybody. And so he loves the drama. He's all about the tease, So let me think about that one. I'm gonna, yeah.
Okay, not gay, but also could it be Steve Martin?
I could see that. What comes to mind for me is
flamboyancy, not gay, but he's got that energy. He's got gay energy. I feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like Steve Martin has gay energy, especially old Steve Martin.
He did drag. I actually took a photo of it. it was an album. Yeah, he did drag at one point. Yeah,
you had that ready to go, dude. You had a premonition before we recorded tonight.
right. It came to me in God this morning. Just it was an angel.
Holy shit, that was so ready to go. I love that.
I think my anus is the guy from
My anus.
What We Do in Shadows, the energy vampire.
Let me see.
He's got that he's real scribey.
Okay, I can see that. Yes, I can see that. Give him some like nice mascara. You know, something like a shadowy eye, like something like make him a little dramatic.
Spruce him up a bit.
Yeah, I like that. Yes, with a cloak. Okay, I could see it. I could totally see it. Done.
The other extreme character in it is Salami, the doubting midwife who gets her hand melted off. Who would you guys cast as Salami?
Sarah Silverman.
Fuck yeah, dude! Totally here for that casting.
There we go. That'd work out pretty good.
Does she have blackface in this though? That's my only question.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she didn't have problems with it years ago. No.
That is a controversy that she will never live down. I love Sarah Silverman, but
I love her too.
She needs to just accept that people will never stop joking about that bad play.
Right. And giving her crap. Like, I think, like, it's so fun. Like, going back to the original conversation where it's like, you know, yes, there were things that were culturally acceptable in its time. Like, you know, it's like that. Then all of a sudden, like, cancel them for it. It's just like, calm down. Like,
yeah, you're. I know it is so funny because I've only recently been seeing like Facebook like bullshit news articles. It's like just those like shitty clickbait articles where it's like, what did Sarah? It's like Sarah Silverman did a shitty sketch 20 years ago where she was the attempt was to ironically joke on the idea of anyone thinking that was a funny idea. And it doesn't age well, but it didn't. But like, why are we talking about something that happened 20 years ago with a comic who was trying to point something out? I don't know. It's so stupid. But either way, Sarah Silverman's a great take for Salami. I don't even have anything else to suggest after that. I'm really into Sarah Silverman as Salami.
Yeah, well, it's a good story going into it's kind of a pre-holiday season story.
Yeah,
and it would be a great one to like throw into the mix at Christmas dinner this year.
Yeah, the long lost story of what's the book? What book? The Gospel of James. You said
the infancy Gospel of James. Yep.
I like I like that they throw infancy on it, like.
Right.
I guess because it stops at Jesus's birth. It's like the whole gospel. But it's not even really the gospel. I don't know. It's an interesting take. I appreciate it. I really respect the way that they tried to delineate in the same story. It's like when you retell the same story over and over and over again to try to like retitle it and take a different take on it and make yourself stand out. I appreciate it. I respect what he was trying to do to get his bag, you know? That's what it comes back to.
Yeah, when was it? Oh, written in 145 AD. So that was what, around the time that the Gospel of John was written?
You know, that's actually possible. I think the Gospel of John, I want to say the Gospel of John was written a little bit before that. I feel like the Gospels were written mostly before 100 AD, but the Gospel of John I know is the latest. So I think a quick Wikipedia that would probably be.
I'm gonna look it up.
I just noticed, like I'm at the bottom where they're talking about, or they're like, listing their references from different books and stuff that they use to explain some things and whatnot. And one of them is Christmas with Salami.
Hell
by George Themelis Zervos.
It's like the Star Wars Christmas special.
Exactly.
The Gospel of John was written between 90 and 100 CE.
Yeah, that's what I got too.
So all the Gospels are pre 100 CE. So that's the cutoff date, is 100 years after Jesus was born, when life expectancy was 45.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
it's
2
six
generations.
Exactly.
Well, goddamn, what a great story. Thanks for sharing, Casey.
Yeah, that was
I'm
beautiful.
edified.
I feel edified too. Well, George, what's going on with you right now? You're I know you're getting ready, you're gearing up to bring back your podcast for a new season, and you got an expected date when you're going to start in on that?
It's funny. I announced I was going to do it August 28th, and then that didn't happen. So yeah, I've done a bunch of interviews. I just haven't been able to have the time. I'm in my busy season right now in California. They extended the tax return deadline, so I'm technically in my busy season right now. So hopefully during the holidays, I'll be able to work on them. I mean, before the holidays, and then come out with a new one. But yeah, I'm getting that done. We'll see. Big question mark.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, especially they start building up and you're like, oh god, I've got like 12 hours of stuff to go through and edit.
Yeah, and like the audio, it's a thing. It's totally a thing. I wish I could just like give it to somebody to do it, but yeah, you have to know context and all of that. But yeah,
And
that's about.
you mentioned like a book revision too, right?
Yeah, so I finished the second version. So the first version was great. It was a hit amongst the people that resonated with it. It needed some literary upgrades. So I hired a professional to edit it, and basically just like getting new stories in there, cutting back on some stories, kind of making it more streamlined, making it more grammatically correct. But yeah, so I'm done with it. I'm in the process of trying to pitch it to traditional publishing.
Hell yeah.
So we'll see. It's it hasn't been great because there is already the first version that's already published. So I'm giving myself till the new year to figure out what I'm going to do with the traditional publishing, and then if not, I'm probably just going to do a second release. And yeah, it's going to be My Gay Church Stays Born Again. So it has multiple.
I love it.
There we go.
Born Again version. You'll keep us posted on that, man. I mean,
but now I'm inspired by the gospel, the infancy of James. So maybe I'll spruce it up a little bit more.
The infancy gospel of James.
Add in some legendary stories about when you were a fetus.
Exactly. My immaculate conception.
You just devote an entire chapter to your mom's pregnancy with you. A prelude. You throw a fucking prelude in there.
It was a trying time. My mother laid in the hospital bed. Yeah.
Just sets the stage for your just godlike characteristics.
Exactly. I came out and walked on water.
Well, man, it's been great talking to you. I'm glad we got to do this. We talked about it for a long time. Like, man, we got to get George back on the show. So thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the story. And like, yeah, it's always I love you guys. It's always an amazing time with you. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you next time.